Hello, you alls. So I'm sitting here with the TristarSupply Supply Holzfforma G660 that I'm building for Sawfest. I've just started on it, got all the numbers and everything, and I've got two cylinders to try. I've got either a highway titanical, whatever you want to say. I think there's some confusion about these cylinders. I say confusion. I think there's some lies. Okay, the plating on these things is awesome, but it's so hard that if you port them, it tends to flake off. If you're not porting, then, I mean, these cylinders, this plating bound to last forever. My goodness. It's really strong. The company says that there's titanium in there. I have no way to prove or disprove that, but I'm pretty sure there ain't no titanium at all, period. It's just Nicosil. I think the Titan portion is strong. King Titan, or is a king, a Titan. A Titan is a big, strong monster, and the nickel is the Nicosil. So, standard chrome plating, titanical Nicosil, not titanium Nicosil. And I don't care what the company website says about them. I call bullshit. There ain't no titanium in this. But either way, it is a very, very strong plating on there. And I think they're really good cylinders. I mean, let's have a look. It's really nice. The ports look really good. I mean, that's straight up. I want to say borderline, but that's as good as stock. It is. It's really good. These are well casted, good cylinders. It's just, the little marketing hoo-ha. They like to say that there's titanium in there. And I gotta, no. just no. No, there isn't. These are Nicosil. The regular ones, just chrome bore. These nice titanical Nicosil. However, after saying all that, I will admit that all I am going from is a good working knowledge of reality. Titanium is extremely expensive. It is extremely expensive. And if these were lined with titanium, you wouldn't be able to get them for $100 a pop. It's just, no! It's just all marketing hoo-ha. However, since I am porting this setup, there's two things to think about. One, that plating does flake off very easily. And so it would have to have a really, really obvious advantage to using this cylinder with the ports. And so I measured the port timing. This is the factory cylinder that came off of it. It looks pretty standard to what Farmer Tech. I mean, it's just a Farmer Tech cylinder that's on there. It's my guess, The numbers on both of them. I did not get the squish on the titanical numbers because I'm going to be cutting on it anyways. It doesn't matter. I didn't want to bolt it down twice. So what we're looking at, this one had 33 thousandths squish with the gasket in place. It's pretty damn good. That is pretty good. Because if you had one of these, you could just remove that gasket and your squish, I mean, you may be hitting the top of the cylinder. I don't know how thick that gasket is because I'm going to leave it in place. It's just easier, especially with these, because you have to put them on with the intake attached. And it's easier to get it all in place if you use the gasket versus using some Motosil or whatever. So the numbers are intake. The Farmer Tech, 80.6. Titanical, 81. Same. All right. Exhaust on both of them, 93. Transfers, Farmer Tech, 123. Titanical, 120. So I'm going to go with the Farmer Tech because I'm going to be cutting on it, and in case I screw something up, I mean, I don't want it to be this one. I want it to be the cheap cylinder. So this is still a brand new unit that Jason can sell. I'm just going to go ahead and put it all right back together, and we're not using it. Good cylinders, but whenever you're modifying stuff, they have their setbacks. So the 660 build begins, and we're going to use the Farmer Tech cylinder. So I need this thing to have a higher roof. I think I'm going to shoot for around 98 on the exhaust roof. If it turns out I can only get 96, that'll be fine. It'll probably run fine at 96. But I'm going to try and get 98 on the roof, on the exhaust roof. So that means I've got to cut a lot out of the squish. And everything, whenever you cut a lot out of the squish, you got to cut a lot off the base, which is good because it's got a nice thick base. So whenever I do that, it's going to set it way down, and that 81 degree intake number is probably going to turn into 88, 89 degrees on the intake, which means this will be a JB weld candidate. I will JB weld up the floor of that intake. And yeah, so moving on, I got to get to work. Okie dokie. So I got it all machined up. The squish is a little bit crooked, or the base is one, probably the squish, but I'm reading about 40,000 squish on one side and 35,000 on the other. That ain't a big deal, but I can't go any further cutting off of the base, or else I will I'm already risking it, but there's a chance that the top ring will get stuck up above the liner. That sticky stuff that you're seeing from the sandpaper, that dark line. So, moment of truth. Let's just do it. Hell with it. Here we go. We're going to put a ring on and see if this piston gets stuck at the top. All right, just the top ring is on there. And here we go. Might as well go ahead and screw it down. I don't think it's going to get stuck. I did my measurements. I think I got about 5/1000ths of an inch before my ring even gets to the ring of death. You understand what I'm saying? The top of the plating. So that being the case, the ring itself has its own thickness that you know, you would have to go all the way, the ring would have to go all the way up above the cylinder lining in order for it to hang. But whenever these things get hot and they stretch, Here we go. It's not hanging. And I don't think it's going to hang. I don't think so. So, all right then. Well, we'll leave that on there. So now what we got to do, we got to talk about the numbers, what we came up with, what we're going to do from here. That is a saw salvage ceramic coated piston. Damn it. There it is. I don't know if I'll use that or not. I actually, because my squish is so big, I think I'm going to go ahead and use pop-up piston. So I have a highway pop-up piston from TristarSupplyLLC. I think I'll use that. I did have one real snafu on setting everything up. Using my mandrel to cut, the cutter got hung up. Where's it at? Oh, bam. See it? See it up there? Now that's a problem. So, what that means is, I mean, it might not be any problem at all. The ring might not get to it. It's possible. But what that means is I'm definitely going to run both rings on this saw because I don't want to take a chance of that causing a problem with compression. And I'll probably run the the pop-up piston as well. I need to measure that, make sure it's going to fit. Heck, I don't even know how to measure it other than just looking at it. So what I'm talking about here, I'll get you lined up here in a second. So there's our pop-up piston, right? And look how fat our squish band is. Is that pop-up going to actually fit down inside of that combustion chamber? Is it? Is it? I don't know for sure. But I think we will use this because, like I was saying, this thing's only got, the squish is about 35 thousandths. It's like 35 thousandths on this side, 40 thousandths on this side, which is a screw up. And it screws up because I can't do 54 millimeter cylinders. I don't have a mandrel big enough. So, so I have to use electrical tape wrapped around the mandrel a lot, several times. You know, 4 millimeters is bigger than you would imagine because I've got the 50 millimeter mandrel. I need a 54 millimeter mandrel. And I need a 56 millimeter mandrel and everything. So whenever I do stuff like that, it tends to get crooked. But anyways, we'll figure this out. I'll go ahead and use that high compression or the pop-up piston. That way, that extra squish isn't such a big deal. But I mean, it probably wouldn't be a big deal anyways because this thing's a big saw and you don't want too much compression. You won't be able to start it. But let's see the numbers, what they ended up being. Looky, looky, looky. So we got, you can say 85 on the intake, 99 on the exhaust. This makes me a happy boy. And then 125 on the transfer opening. Now the transfer opening, where you, what that, everybody likes to talk about the blowdown. Like they would say that this thing, as it is, has 26 degrees of blowdown. But me personally, I don't give a shit about that. That means nothing to me. That is literally a nothing number to me. What means something is this and this. So we can say 85 degrees. From 85 degrees to 125 degrees, that gives us 40 degrees of crankcase pressure, which is not enough. That's bad. That's bad because this thing has too big of a crankcase volume. So what you have to do, the way I understand it, as it's been told to me by Jeff, give credit where credit's due, right? I have had other people say things similar to this too, but the way I understand it is there's only two ways to deal with this problem that we have of too much volume in the crankcase. And that is, A, we can give it a whole bunch of air and fuel, right? We can do that, give it a whole bunch by putting on a bigger carburetor. However, we don't have a bigger carburetor. The other way to fix it is to give it more crankcase pressure, more time, right? So like if this was to close 10 degrees sooner at 75 degrees, then that would bring our crankcase pressure up to 50. All right. And what this is the amount of time that the bottom of the piston, as the piston goes down, it goes past the bottom of your intake. And as it goes down, it is squeezing. It is squeezing all of the stuff, the air-fuel mixture in your crankcase, right? Until eventually the transfers open. It's actually way up here, but it's the top of the piston versus the bottom of the piston. So your transfers open and release that pressure out into your combustion chamber. So this is the number that means a damn thing to me. Blowdown doesn't. Now, blowdown is problematic if you have like factory mufflers and stuff, a factory exhaust. But if you got a great big open exhaust pipe or modified muffler, you got a nice big hole, then that stuff's going to flow out pretty much no problem whatsoever. And the blowdown just doesn't mean anything to me. I can't see how it would. The one place where it does mean something is like on a saw like this. Forget about the crankcase pressure for a moment, and let's just talk about the blowdown. It would make a difference if you had like 10 degrees of blowdown, because the piston's so big that the exhaust needs time to exit before the fresh charge comes in. Otherwise, you're going to mix your fresh charge with your stagnant used exhaust emissions, right? And you don't want to mix that up. What you actually ideally want to have is the tiniest amount of fresh charge leaving your exhaust, right? Right when the piston closes. Now, you in a perfect world, you don't want any, but we don't live in a perfect world. So it's better to have a little bit of that stuff flow out the exhaust than it is to have not enough of it and you've got the remaining exhaust emission stuff still in your combustion chamber. And that's where a tuned pipe comes in. A tuned pipe literally pushes it back in, pushes that fresh charge, it sucks it out, and then it pushes it back in. Suck and blow. So anyways, next step to this is I've got to put JB Weld on the intake. And I'm going to mix that stuff up right now. And I'll show you how I do that. I guess maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I don't know.